My name is Thomas Riley. I'm 42 years old, a former U.S. Army sniper with 3 tours in Afghanistan behind me and more ghosts than I care to count. After my honorable discharge, I came back to a country that felt colder than the mountains of Kunar, and to a home that felt emptier than the outposts I used to sleep in. I had a wife, Rachel, and 2 kids who barely knew me by then. Rachel used to send me handwritten letters during my first tour, the kind that smelled like home, like lavender and warm laundry. By the time I returned for good, the ink had dried, and her eyes stopped lighting up when I walked through the door. I was broken, no way around it. The Army stitched me up and sent me home with a folder full of therapy referrals and a bottle of sleeping pills. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't make it through a day without feeling like someone had a gun to the back of my head. Rachel tried, I won't lie. For the first year, she drove me to my VA appointments, reminded me to take my meds, even sat with me on the bathroom floor more than once when I had those midnight breakdowns. But somewhere along the way, the pity turned into something sharper. I saw it in the way she looked at me when I jumped at loud noises, in the silence when I sat at the dinner table and didn't say a word. She started spending more time at work, more time at her sister's, and when she was home, she was always glued to her phone. I chalked it up to frustration. Being married to someone who came back half alive can't be easy. Then came Dr. Eric Nolan. He was the new VA-appointed trauma therapist I was assigned to after my last breakdown landed me in the ER. Tall, clean-cut, always wearing those fitted sweaters that made him look more like a lifestyle influencer than a shrink. He talked smooth, never interrupted, made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely crazy. Rachel came with me to a couple of sessions early on, said she wanted to understand how to support my healing. I remember the way she leaned forward when Eric spoke, how she laughed at his dry jokes, how she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that it was just me being paranoid, reading too much into things like I did back in combat, always scanning for threats that weren't there. But the signs kept piling up. Rachel staying out later, suddenly dressing nicer, even when she said she was just going grocery shopping. Eric canceling 2 of my appointments in a row with vague excuses about scheduling conflicts. The final straw was the text I saw when Rachel left her phone on the nightstand. A message from Eric. Can't stop thinking about last night. You were incredible. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever, my hands shaking, my ears ringing like I just fired a shot in a closed room. My wife, my therapist. While I was sitting in the dark trying not to eat a bullet, they were out there screwing under the excuse of helping me heal. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to be sure. So I did what every trained soldier does. I planned, I watched, I tracked. I started small, logging her locations through the shared iCloud, noting timestamps, tracking the gaps between when she said she was at her sister's and when she actually got home. Then I bugged my own damn car, the one she sometimes took to save gas, and left an old phone with a voice recorder app running in the glove box. The first few days were nothing but silence and road noise. Then one Wednesday, the audio file I retrieved made my blood go cold. Her voice, his voice, laughter, heavy breathing, moaning, in my car. The same back seat where our daughter once slept during a late-night drive home from a fireworks show. That night, I sat on the porch with a cigar in my mouth and a .45 on the table next to me, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do with this information. Rage doesn't even cover it. It was like someone reached into my chest and yanked out everything I had left. Every last ounce of pride, every bit of belief I had in loyalty, in family, in the goddamn institution of marriage. And yet, I didn't explode. Not yet. I'd seen enough chaos in war. I didn't want to bring that same chaos to my kids. I owed them that much. So instead, I waited,
waited and watched as Rachel continued to kiss me goodbye like nothing was wrong, as she sat at the dinner table across from me pretending to be a wife. She had no idea I was onto her. No clue I'd printed out the text logs, the photos from the hotel parking lot, the audio files. No idea I'd scheduled a session with Eric under a fake name using a prepaid number, just to catch him face to face. When that day came, I walked into his office with my army jacket on, not for warmth, but for the weight of memory. I sat across from him, smiled like a man who hadn't been shattered, and listened to him welcome me like I was just another broken vet. Then I placed the manila envelope on his desk and said, "You want to talk about trauma? Let's talk about betrayal first." I wish I could describe the look on his face when he opened it. Pale, hollow, like someone punched the air out of his lungs. He stammered, asked me to calm down. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch him. I just stood up and told him that if he ever contacted Rachel again, or even breathed in her direction, I'd make sure the VA board saw everything. Then I left. Rachel was waiting at home, sipping wine like it was just another Tuesday. I handed her the same envelope, watched her face morph from smug to confused to pure terror. She cried, she begged, said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, that she thought I didn't love her anymore. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just told her the truth, that she was never alone in that marriage, even when I was gone, that every time I wrote her from some God-forsaken outpost, I was thinking about her and the kids, that every decision I made, every life I took, every trauma I swallowed, I did it thinking I was protecting something sacred back home, and she pissed all over it. I slept in the truck that night. Next day, I filed for divorce and custody. The kids stay with me now. And Eric? He's not practicing anymore. VA pulled his license when the full story came out. Turns out I wasn't the only one he crossed lines with. But that's not even the part that hurts the most. The worst part is knowing that for all I survived, for all I endured, the place I finally broke wasn't the battlefield. It was my own living room.
She tried everything after that. Letters left on my windshield, tearful voicemails in the middle of the night, emails that started formal and ended with desperate confessions. She even had her sister call me. Her sister, who used to rant about loyalty and family values over Thanksgiving dinner, telling me Rachel was a mess, that she regretted everything, that she was willing to do anything to fix it. I didn't respond. I didn't even delete the messages. I just let them pile up like dead leaves, evidence of what happens when you burn everything and expect the wind to carry away the ashes. But it wasn't over. A few weeks later, she showed up at our daughter's soccer game, pretending like she had a right to be there. She wore this white sweater I'd bought her on our last anniversary. I remember because it still had the little stain on the cuff from a wine tasting we went to in Napa. That sweater used to mean something. Now it made me sick. Our daughter ran up to me afterward and asked, "Why does Mommy cry when she sees you?" I didn't know how to answer. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that her mother didn't just betray me, she betrayed the life we all built? The routines, the trust, the safety, everything a kid needs to feel like their world isn't spinning out of control. Still, I stayed calm. I didn't want to poison my kids with my own bitterness. I just told her, sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that are too big to fix right away. And that seemed to satisfy her, for now. But the real wound, that comes later, when they're older, when they piece things together, when they realize why Christmas pictures stop including their mom, why their dad flinches every time someone talks about counseling, why he suddenly had a therapist of his own, a guy named Dave, ex-Navy, who knows what it's like to come home to a house that doesn't feel like home anymore. And that's the thing. Healing doesn't come all at once.
It's not some clean break. It's slow. It's messy. It's nights when you drink too much because the silence in the house is louder than gunfire. It's mornings when the kids ask why you look tired even though you went to bed early. It's walking past a bakery and remembering her favorite pastries and hating that you still remember. Eventually, I got back into shape, started lifting again, running longer. I signed up for a veterans hiking retreat in Utah just to get the hell out of town. Being in the mountains helped. Something about that raw, quiet power made me feel human again. I met other guys who'd been through similar betrayals, some worse. One guy came home after a deployment to find his wife had sold his motorcycle and moved in with a yoga instructor. Another got divorce papers emailed to him on his birthday. There's a strange comfort in knowing you're not the only one who got gutted. But what made the biggest difference was something I didn't expect: writing. I started journaling, just dumping everything out onto paper. The rage, the shame, the moments of doubt. And then one day, I submitted a piece anonymously to a veterans magazine. They published it. The feedback poured in. Hundreds of men and women thanking me for putting into words what they couldn't say aloud. Rachel eventually moved out of state. She FaceTimes the kids on weekends, sends them gifts. I don't block her. I don't sabotage the calls, but I keep my distance. Not out of spite, out of survival. Some betrayals are like radiation. You don't have to touch the source to keep getting sick. People ask if I'll ever date again. Maybe. But if I do, she'll have to be the kind of woman who understands that love isn't just Sunday brunch and Instagram selfies. It's standing by someone when they're hollowed out. It's knowing what they've lost and choosing to stay anyway. And until then, I'll keep waking up, packing school lunches, tying shoelaces, showing up to every soccer game and science fair because my kids deserve a father who didn't let heartbreak turn him into a ghost. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real revenge. Living well, stronger, wiser, and absolutely unbreakable.
One night, about a year later, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email, not a text, an actual letter. Handwritten on lined yellow paper, folded 3 times and sealed in an envelope with no return address. The handwriting was hers. I knew it before I even opened it. I stood in the kitchen for almost an hour just staring at it. Part of me wanted to throw it away. Another part, maybe the stubborn, haunted part, needed to read it. So I sat down at the table where we used to do the kids' homework together, and I read. It wasn't an apology. Not exactly. It was more like a confession. She wrote that after I left, after the truth came out and the reality of her choices finally settled in, everything around her started to rot. Her friends pulled away. Her family, especially her parents, turned cold. She lost her job, not because of the affair, but because she couldn't focus. She was drinking too much, missing deadlines, crying during meetings. She admitted she saw the girl she cheated on me with a few times afterward. At first, because it was easier than being alone. Then came the man, a short-lived, chaotic rebound with someone she said made her feel nothing. And that was the point. She wrote that she hated herself more with each passing month, but not in a dramatic movie scene way. In the quiet way that sneaks up on you. In the little things. Avoiding mirrors. Forgetting to eat. Waking up with a pillow soaked in tears she didn't remember shedding. She tried therapy. She quit. She tried church. Left before the first hymn. Said she kept seeing me in crowds. Said she heard my voice in her dreams,
but never the angry version. Always the version of me before. The one who brought her coffee in bed. The one who sat on the bathroom floor holding her hair when she was sick. The man she butchered. Her word, not mine. And then she wrote something that stuck with me. She said, "I didn't cheat because I didn't love you. I cheated because I didn't love myself." I read that line over and over again until the ink blurred from my own tears. I didn't forgive her, not then, and maybe not ever. But I understood something I hadn't before, that her betrayal wasn't about me. It never was. It was about the way broken people burn things they can't believe they deserve. And while that didn't heal me, it did something close. It gave me peace. I never wrote her back. I folded the letter and put it in a small wooden box I keep in my closet, under old medals and faded photos from Iraq. I don't look at it often, but I keep it. Not because I want to remember her, but because I want to remember how far I've come. I'm not the same man I was before all this. I'm not as naive. I'm not as quick to trust, but I'm also not bitter. I've rebuilt my life, slowly, intentionally. I cook with my kids now. I read more. I learned how to fix a leaky sink without calling anyone. I take long walks. I breathe better. And sometimes, when I least expect it, I catch myself smiling. Not because I forgot what happened, but because it doesn't own me anymore.
A few years have passed now. Time does strange things. It doesn't erase, but it softens. The sharp edges dull. The memories become less like open wounds and more like scars you occasionally run your fingers across, just to remind yourself that you survived. My kids are older now. My daughter just got her driver's license. My son started high school and grew 6 inches in one summer. They know, in their own way, what happened. I never told them the full story, but they saw enough to understand. Then maybe that's for the best. Children shouldn't have to carry the weight of their parents' pain, but they do see it. They feel it in the silence, in the way the house changes, in the looks that go unanswered. I did my best to keep things stable for them. I swallowed a lot, smiled when I didn't feel like it, answered questions with half-truths. But I made one promise to myself. I would never lie to them about love. I would show them what respect looks like, even if I had to start from scratch. I dated again, cautiously, clumsily. The first woman I went out with reminded me too much of my ex. Her laugh, her perfume, even the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. I panicked halfway through the dinner and left early. I apologized later, but I knew I wasn't ready. The second time, it felt different. Her name was Claire. She was a nurse, divorced, with a quiet strength in her eyes that told me she'd seen her share of darkness. We didn't talk about our pasts much at first. We just existed. Walks, coffee, sitting on park benches, watching people pass by. It was slow, purposeful. I needed that. One night, months later, I told her everything. Not because I felt obligated, but because I trusted her. She listened without flinching. No pity, no interruptions, just held my hand and let me speak. When I finished, she didn't give me some cheesy line about closure or moving on. She just said, "That must have hurt like hell, but you're still here."
And somehow those 5 words did more for me than 1,000 therapy sessions. It's strange, the way life cracks you open and still finds a way to fill the empty spaces with something unexpected. I'm not naive enough to believe pain disappears. I still wake up sometimes in a cold sweat, the echo of her laughter in my ears. I still avoid certain songs. Still paused when I see 2 women holding hands in public, my mind flashing to that first betrayal. But I don't live there anymore. That version of me, the one that begged for answers, that screamed into his steering wheel, that stared at the ceiling night after night wondering what he did wrong, he's gone. And in his place stands a man who knows what he's worth. I've come to believe that betrayal doesn't just change your relationship, it changes your entire identity. You lose the version of yourself that trusted blindly, that believed love alone was enough. But in its place, if you're lucky, grows someone stronger, someone quieter, someone who listens more, reacts less, someone who knows that love is not just passion and chemistry, it's choice, it's showing up, it's telling the truth even when it's ugly. I don't think I'll ever forget what she did, and maybe that's okay, because forgetting isn't healing, understanding is. Reclaiming your peace is. Learning to breathe again, laugh again, trust again, even when it scares the hell out of you. That's healing.